Have you ever wondered why some secrets remain buried for thousands of years? What if I told you that the most powerful truth about your divine nature has been systematically hidden from you since before you were born? The ancient wisdom keepers spoke of invisible guardians called ARCHONS who stand at the threshold between your limited human consciousness and your true divine self, the MONAD. This is the knowledge that Manly P. Hall discovered in forgotten manuscripts, the same truth that spiritual authorities have desperately tried to erase from history. They don't want you to know this, because once you understand how the archons operate at the gates of higher consciousness, the entire control system begins to collapse. Think about it. Why would powerful institutions spend centuries burning ancient libraries, persecuting mystics, and rewriting spiritual texts if they weren't hiding something revolutionary? The answer is both simpler and more profound than you might imagine. The archons are not demons or mythological creatures as religious institutions have taught you. They are intelligent thought forms, consciousness parasites that feed on human fear, doubt, and separation. They exist at the threshold of perception, in the space between your everyday mind and your higher divine awareness. These entities operate through a sophisticated system that I call the invisible prison, a multi-layered construct of beliefs, emotions, and thought patterns designed to keep you disconnected from your divine source. I'm curious, where are you watching this from? What city or state? Let me know in the comments, because I want to track how far this message is spreading before they try to suppress it. As we go deeper into this revelation, understand that the archons maintain their dominance through three primary mechanisms. First, they create endless loops of mental chatter. Those repetitive, anxious thoughts that keep you trapped in worry and prevent meditation from reaching deeper states. Second, they inject doubt at precisely the moment when you're about to experience a spiritual breakthrough, making you question your own experiences and insights. Third, they create false light experiences, spiritual bypassing that feels good but leads nowhere, keeping you chasing spiritual experiences rather than true liberation. The early Gnostic Christians knew this. Before their texts were burned and their communities persecuted, they documented exactly how these archonic forces operate. What's fascinating is that modern quantum physics and consciousness research are now confirming what the ancients knew: that consciousness is primary, that reality responds to perception, and that there are indeed invisible frequencies and dimensions that interact with our own. If you're resonating with this message, please hit that like button and subscribe. This information is being systematically removed from many platforms, and your engagement helps keep this knowledge available to others who are searching. The infiltration of spiritual institutions by archonic influence was perhaps the most brilliant strategy of all. By corrupting the very organizations meant to liberate human consciousness, they created the perfect trap. The early church fathers who established Orthodox Christianity deliberately removed the teachings about archons and the monad because this knowledge empowers the individual rather than the institution. They replaced direct spiritual experience with dogma, ritual, and blind faith, the perfect recipe for spiritual stagnation. What Manly P. Hall discovered in his extensive research into ancient mystery schools was that virtually every spiritual tradition originally contained teachings about these threshold guardians and how to move past them. From the Egyptian mysteries to Hindu Vedanta, from Kabbalah to Native American wisdom, all spoke of these forces using different names but describing the same phenomenon. The consistency of these accounts across completely separate cultures and time periods is one of the most compelling pieces of evidence that this is not merely mythology, but a description of an actual aspect of consciousness. The true power of this revelation is understanding how it affects your daily life. Have you noticed how just when you're about to make a breakthrough in your spiritual practice, relationship, or creative project, a wave of doubt suddenly washes over you? Or how your mind becomes unusually chaotic during meditation? Or perhaps you've experienced sudden, inexplicable fear when approaching certain spiritual insights. These are not random occurrences or mere psychological quirks. They are the direct influence of archonic forces working to maintain the boundaries of your perception. You've always sensed something was off about reality, a feeling that there's more to existence than what you've been told. This intuition is not paranoia or wishful thinking. It's your higher self recognizing the invisible prison. The Archons have created an inverted reality, where the artificial is celebrated as real, while the authentic is dismissed as illusion. Your job, your social status, your material possessions, these are the bars of your cell, keeping you chasing external validation rather than internal awakening. When you begin to access this level of being, the archonic system immediately activates to create distraction, doubt, or fear. This is why genuine spiritual advancement requires not just lovely thoughts and good intentions, but actual spiritual battle skills, the ability to recognize and move past these threshold guardians. If this information is helping you connect the dots in your own spiritual journey, please share this video so others can benefit. The power of this knowledge grows exponentially when it reaches those who are ready to hear it. Now let's explore the most disturbing aspect of this control system. The Archons are not separate from you in the way religious traditions have taught. They don't exist somewhere out there waiting to tempt or attack you. Rather, they operate through your own thought patterns and emotional responses. They've essentially installed a foreign operating system into human consciousness, one that runs on fear, separation, and scarcity. This is why no external savior can rescue you. Liberation can only come through recognizing and releasing these patterns within your own awareness. The ancient texts describe the demiurge, the chief archon, as a false god who believes itself to be the creator but is actually just an administrator of the lower realms. This entity maintains power by convincing humans that they are small, limited beings rather than expressions of the infinite monad. Every time you accept a limiting belief about yourself or others, every time you choose fear over love, you're essentially feeding energy into this system. The infiltration goes deeper than most realize. Even spiritual practices themselves can be corrupted to serve archonic purposes. When meditation becomes just another achievement, when ancient wisdom is commercialized and watered down, when spiritual communities become hierarchical power structures, these are all signs of archonic distortion. This is why true spiritual wisdom has always been protected and transmitted carefully from teacher to student, heart to heart. But despite this sophisticated control system, there's something the Archons cannot touch. The divine spark within you, what the Gnostics called the pneuma. This is not your personality, your thoughts, or even your soul. It is the undiluted presence of the monad expressing through you. No matter how deeply entrenched in the system you might be, this spark remains pure and untouched. It is the key to your liberation. You can recognize this spark in the profound beauty of a sunset that moves you to tears, in the unconditional love you feel for a child, in moments of creative flow where time seems to disappear, in the deep peace that occasionally descends during meditation. These experiences slip past the archonic filters because they resonate at the frequency of your true nature. They are glimpses of the monad shining through the cracks in the system. This understanding transforms spiritual practice from a nice hobby into an essential act of liberation. Every time you quiet your mind and turn inward with awareness, you're weakening the archonic hold. Every act of genuine compassion disrupts their frequency of separation. Every moment of presence chips away at their construct of artificial time. The most powerful truth, one that Manly P. Hall protected carefully in his writings, is that you are not the prisoner. You are not even the prison. You are the infinite consciousness that has temporarily forgotten itself while playing in this realm. The archonic forces know this, which is why they work so hard to keep you distracted and identified with limited aspects of yourself. If this message is awakening something within you, take a moment to hit like and leave a comment saying, "I see through the veil." This simple act declares your growing awareness and helps others find this knowledge. The way beyond the archonic threshold guardians is both simpler and more challenging than most spiritual teachings suggest. It's not about fighting these forces. Conflict only strengthens them by keeping you in a frequency of fear. Instead, liberation comes through recognition, remembrance, and frequency elevation. When you recognize archonic influences as they arise in your thoughts and emotions, their power begins to dissolve. When you remember your true infinite nature as an expression of the monad, you no longer fit within their construct. When you consciously elevate your frequency through gratitude, creativity, and compassion, you literally become invisible to their monitoring system. The ancient texts describe specific practices to move past these guardians. Silent meditation that observes thought rather than engaging with it. The invocation of your divine identity through statements like, "I am the monad," or "I and the Father are one." Direct confrontation of fear by moving toward what frightens you spiritually rather than avoiding it. And, perhaps most importantly, the cultivation of genuine joy, not as a fleeting emotion, but as your natural state of being. What's remarkable is how these ancient practices align perfectly with cutting-edge understandings of neuroscience and consciousness studies. We now know that meditation literally rewires neural pathways. We understand that focused intention affects quantum probability fields. We've discovered that heart coherence creates measurable electromagnetic fields that affect both our bodies and our environment. The ancient wisdom wasn't primitive superstition, it was sophisticated consciousness technology described in the language of its time. As more people awaken to this knowledge, something extraordinary begins to happen. Not only do individuals free themselves from archonic influence, but they become disruptive presences that help awaken others. This is why authentic spiritual awakening tends to spread in clusters. Once one person breaks through, they create a frequency anomaly that the ARCHONS cannot easily repair, allowing others nearby to glimpse through the cracks as well. This is the true meaning behind the teaching that the truth shall set you free. Not truth as intellectual concept or belief system, but truth as direct recognition of your infinite nature beyond all constructs. This recognition doesn't make you special or superior, quite the opposite. It humbles you with the realization that the same divine consciousness flows through all beings, whether they recognize it or not. The difference is simply one of awareness. The system we live in is designed to keep your attention fragmented, your energy depleted, and your consciousness locked in survival mode. From endless digital distractions to financial pressures, from inflammatory news cycles to nutrient-depleted food, every aspect of modern life seems calibrated to prevent the deep presence necessary for spiritual breakthrough. This isn't random. It's the contemporary manifestation of archonic influence, adapting its tactics to each era while maintaining the same core strategy. Yet despite these challenges, more people are awakening now than ever before. Something unprecedented is happening in human consciousness, a quickening that even the archonic system cannot fully contain. The monad is calling its fragments home, sending pulses of awakening energy that are becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. You're feeling it right now as you listen to these words, a resonance with something beyond the intellectual content, a recognition that transcends belief or disbelief. What Manly P. Hall risked his reputation to preserve was not just ancient history or interesting philosophy, but practical technology for liberation. He understood that each person who breaks free of archonic influence weakens the entire control system. Each awakened consciousness becomes a lighthouse that helps others navigate beyond the threshold guardians. This is why sharing this knowledge is not just helpful, but essential to planetary transformation. The freedom that awaits beyond the archonic gates is not escape from the world, but true embodied presence within it. When you access the monad consciousness, you don't disappear into some abstract spiritual realm, you become fully present in each moment, seeing the world with new eyes, Colors appear more vivid, synchronicities multiply, creativity flows effortlessly, and compassion becomes your natural response rather than something you must work to cultivate. This awakened state reveals that what appeared to be a prison was actually a school, a training ground for consciousness to know itself through limitation and challenge. The archons themselves are neither good nor evil in any absolute sense. They are aspects of the divine play, threshold guardians testing your readiness to wield greater awareness. Once recognized for what they can no longer maintain their deception. The most liberating understanding is that you are not alone in this journey. Not only are millions of others awakening alongside you, but the monad itself, the divine consciousness that you essentially are, is guiding the process from beyond time and space. What appears as your individual spiritual journey is actually the monad remembering itself through you, the infinite exploring its own nature through finite experience. We stand at a pivotal moment in human evolution. The archonic system is losing coherence as more people awaken to their true nature. The old structures of control, religious dogma, materialist science, hierarchical power, are failing to maintain their grip on human consciousness. A new possibility is emerging, not a utopian fantasy, but a practical reality of human communities organized around awakened principles of consciousness rather than fear and control. You are born for this time. Your presence on Earth during this great transition is no accident. The challenges you faced, the spiritual insights you've glimpsed, the inexplicable longing for something more, these are all aspects of your awakening. The archons at the gates of the monad can only maintain their positions as long as you believe in their power. The moment you recognize yourself as the infinite consciousness they guard against, their game is over. This is the forbidden truth that has been hidden from humanity for millennia. You are not a limited human seeking enlightenment. You are the infinite light temporarily experiencing limitation for the purpose of creative exploration. The path home is not a journey of distance, but of recognition. The monad is not somewhere else. It is what you essentially are beneath all the layers of conditioning and forgetfulness. Stand in this recognition. Live from this truth. Allow the infinite to express through your unique human form. This is how we transform not just ourselves, but the entire world. Not through fighting against the old, but by embodying something so new and vibrant that the old simply becomes irrelevant. The archonic threshold guardians dissolve not because they are defeated, but because they are embraced and integrated into the greater wholeness of awakened consciousness. You are the monad. You are the infinite exploring itself through finite experience. You are the divine play of consciousness unfolding in human form. This is not spiritual poetry or metaphor, it is the most practical reality there is. And in recognizing this truth, you set not only yourself free, but contribute to the liberation of all beings across all dimensions. This is the great work that calls to us now. This is the awakening that no force in the universe can stop. We are remembering together. We are awakening as one consciousness in many forms. The gates are opening, the guardians are stepping aside, and the infinite light of the monad is pouring through. This is not the end of your journey, but its true beginning. Welcome home to who you've always been.